Harrow Bay, a small, quiet coastal town, had been a place of safety and tight-knit community for generations. However, in November 1983, a chilling wave of disappearances began, forever changing the lives of its residents. These mysterious disappearances persisted over the years, and fear only grew stronger when a few bodies were discovered with no clues to follow. The first victim was Thomas Blake, a traveling salesman from a nearby town. Blake, a middle-aged man, visited Harrow Bay a few times each month to sell his goods. Friendly and sociable, he was well known among local merchants in the town market. On the night of November 5, 1983, Blake drove to Harrow Bay, planning to stay the night before heading home the following morning. But by morning, no one had seen him. Blake's car was found abandoned at the town's edge near the harbor, but there was no indication he had left voluntarily. Inside the car was a torn handkerchief and an old map. At the time, there were no signs of a struggle or anything suspicious, but Blake's sudden disappearance left the townspeople uneasy. The police searched for weeks but found no trace of him. 6 months after Thomas Blake's disappearance, Harrow Bay was struck by another alarming event. Mary Hill, a middle-aged woman living near the Central Market, vanished on the night of May 18, 1984. Mary lived alone, with no close family in town. Neighbors recalled hearing screams from the alley near the market that night, but when they checked, all they found was darkness. The search for Mary lasted nearly 2 weeks before her body was discovered in a marshy area about an hour's walk from town. Her body lay submerged in thick mud, almost completely hidden beneath the water, making it difficult to locate. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation, but there were no traces of a weapon or any evidence leading to the culprit. No fingerprints or footprints were found near the body, leaving a grim mystery with no answers. Nearly a year later, in October 1985, Harrow Bay was shaken once again by the disappearance of John and Sarah Carter, a young couple who had recently moved to town to open a cafe. On the stormy night of October 14th, the couple went out to make final preparations for their cafe's grand opening. That night, they were last seen leaving their home. After their disappearance, police and local volunteers conducted extensive searches for days with no results. A month later, however, John's body washed up on a beach about 5 miles from town. His death was ruled as drowning, but his body bore several bruises, suggesting he might have been pushed into the water after a struggle. As for Sarah, she had vanished without a trace. Despite thorough searches, no evidence of her whereabouts was ever found. Sarah's case became one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries for the people of Harrow Bay. No one could understand why John and Sarah, a young couple with dreams of a new life, had become victims of such dark events. The disappearances and the discovery of bodies in disturbing conditions caused widespread panic in Harrow Bay. The once peaceful town now felt strange and frightening to its residents. Families living near the harbor began locking their doors tightly each night, and no one dared to go outside after dark. Tales of mysterious figures roaming the shoreline and strange sounds from the old lighthouse became ingrained in the town's lore. Investigators combed through each victim's remains and the crime scenes, but everything seemed to lead nowhere. There were no clear clues, no solid witnesses, and the pieces didn't fit together. The disappearances continued sporadically over the following years, and each time a body was found, the townspeople grew more fearful and desperate. Amid the town's collective fear, suspicion began to fall on Harold Kane, the owner of a small butcher shop and a man known for his reclusive nature. Kane had no solid alibi for the nights of the disappearances, and he was often seen at odd hours. However, the police had no evidence to convict him, leaving the investigation stalled and the community even more uneasy. James Walker, the detective assigned to the case, became obsessed with Kane and spent countless hours watching his every move. Walker was convinced that Kane knew more than he was revealing, yet he had no concrete evidence to bring charges. Walker's investigation dragged on, becoming increasingly exhausting and frustrating. Over the years, the case faded into memory, and the town gradually returned to a fragile peace. It wasn't until 2004, with the development of DNA technology, that the Harrow Bay case finally saw a breakthrough. A blood sample on a piece of fabric found near the harbor in 1983 was re-examined and matched Harold Kane's DNA. This evidence brought the case back to life and led to Kane's arrest. Kane was brought to court under the horrified gaze of the residents of Harrow Bay. During the trial, he maintained a calm and eerie composure. In court, he uttered vague statements about power, control, and watching them disappear into the night, leaving the public unsettled. Kane was sentenced to life in prison, finally putting an end to the terror that had haunted the town for over 3 decades. Although Kane was imprisoned, the scars he left on Harrow Bay remained deeply etched in the minds of the town's residents. The disappearances and mysterious deaths had become ingrained in the community's memory, inspiring local ghost stories and chilling legends. On foggy nights, Harrow Bay residents still share tales of ghostly figures roaming the shores, believing that the spirits of the victims are still searching for peace.